Good evening. Everyone, tonight we're standing in a corridor that tastes like antiseptic and vending machine sugar, where fluorescent lights hum like polite cicadas and a paper bracelet leaves a soft pink echo on my wrist. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here, and in the comments. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I like seeing our little constellation of night owls. Now, turn off the lights, maybe let a fan hum in the background, and let's begin tonight's journey together. I am 63, and hospitals have started calling me ma'am in a tone that thinks it's a quilt. Today they called my blood a riddle and my dizziness a mystery illness. And I let them. Because arguing with clipboards is a sport I've retired from. I signed. I breathed. I surrendered 3 small vials to a tray that took them away like it had plans. When the nurse looped the paper bracelet off my wrist, I felt lighter and only a little fraudulent, as if certainty weighed more than skin. In the elevator down, my purse felt heavier than dignity. I set it on my lap in the ride chair and rummaged for a mint so I could taste something that wasn't tubes. My fingers found a folded sheet, crisp, hospital paper tucked under my wallet. The outside said, Madam, in ballpoint that wanted to be invisibly brave. I slid it open with the caution you save for bad news and expensive peaches. The letter was 4 lines. Stop taking anything not on your chart. Ask for written prescriptions only. Save all bottles and teas. The M was a ripple, not a signature. I looked up at the rearview mirror. The driver looked back the way drivers do, kindly and curious. I folded the paper into my phone case, like a person turning a sentence into an amulet. Academic phrase of the day, whistleblower. The public argument that someone inside a system can decide their loyalty belongs first to the truth, even when their badge says otherwise. The letter smelled like truth wrapped in fear. Home smelled like lemon cleaner because my daughter-in-law had helped while I was out. Lila is efficient, the way a calendar is efficient. Rooms line up when she walks through them. The kitchen gleamed as if no onion had ever been rude here. On the counter, she had placed a steeping mug of something amber labeled calming blend. Her handwriting looping like a jump rope. Drink while it's hot. The smiley face looked like it worked for HR. I stared at the mug, the way people stare at a cliff and measure their ankles. In the cabinet where my teas live, an unfamiliar tin leaned as if it had always belonged. Tranquility Herbal. The ingredients list was not a list so much as a shrug proprietary blend. I set the tin back like you set down a sleeping cat that isn't yours. Elder Wisdom Reflection. When a gift arrives with gentle pressure attached, call it a request wearing perfume. You are allowed to open your windows before opening your mouth. I put the kettle on again. A stall dressed as routine. The kitchen window caught the late afternoon light and arranged it on the sink like a rehearsal. On the fridge, Lila had taped a schedule labeled Mom's Plan Monday Broths. Tuesday teas. Wednesday detox clusters. Thursday rest day circled twice. Jokes like to arrive when terror starts chewing furniture. Joke 1 knocked on the glass if detox were real. Hospitals would have soup menus. I took out my phone and made a new note titled Paper Beats Panic. Under it, photograph every label. Keep every bag. Ask Dr. Harlan for printouts only, no more samples. And because I know myself too well, do not argue when tired. I snapped pictures of the Tranquility tin, the steeping mug, the lemon cleaner with its missionary seal. Next, the pill minder Lila had brought last week with days stamped like permissions. Friday's slot still held 2 vitamins the color of caution tape. I tipped them into my palm, took a picture on the countertop's fake marble that photographs truthfully, then slid them into an envelope as if they were beetles for a child's science fair. Joke 2, I labeled the envelope Mystery Snacks. then crossed it out and wrote capsules unknown. Lila texted, "How are you feeling?" Tea should help the fog. Fog is a word that belongs to mornings and novels. Not my bloodstream. I typed back, "Resting. Doctor will message results. Thank you for cleaning." Then put the phone face down because replies can smell like consent. Quick, quirky sidebar. There's a flower called Datura Angel's Trumpet, used in some natural sedatives across centuries. It looks like a lullaby and acts like an eraser. People swallow flowers more easily than syllables like scopolamine, which is why labels love euphemism. A cup is a friendly assassin if you let it be. I poured the amber tea into the sink and watched it disappear with the satisfaction of a decision. I brewed my own plain black leaves that don't pretend to be anything else. In the back hall. I found the recycling bag heavier than it should be. Lila is a virtuosic recycler of evidence. I lifted out 2 boxes I didn't recognize, Sleep Well nightcaps and Serenity Time, plus a glossy flyer for an integrative wellness seminar starring a woman in a white lab coat advertising vitamins with names like Lullaby, Hush, and Drift. I photographed everything, slid the boxes into a grocery bag for the lockbox, and rinsed the guilt off my hands the way we rinse garlic. Derek, my son, arrived at 6 with his shoes politely loud. He kissed my hair, breathed a careful "How are you?" and then, right on cue, reached for the mug that was no longer there. "Lila said to make sure you drank this," he offered, lifting the empty. I showed him my black tea. "This keeps me company," I said. He nodded, too eager to agree, like a man bribing his own conscience with manners. Over omelets heavy on parsley. Because parsley forgives Derek. Said the phrase that people say when they are about to move furniture inside you without asking. "We're just worried." He listed symptoms, my dizziness Tuesday. The way I went to the pantry last week and forgot why I was there. The afternoon I napped. Somewhere in there. Caring put on a helmet and climbed onto my ribcage. I let him talk. I did not produce the letter. Whistleblowers deserve better openings than dinner time. "Dr. Harlan will send results tomorrow," I said, "because sentences need an adult, and I'd like everything he recommends in writing. No supplements unless they live on a prescription pad." Derek's face did a small, confused dance. This was his mother speaking like a policy. He deflated a centimeter and then tried a joke. "You and your paperwork. Paper has never had a side effect," I said. Joke 3 winked from the fork, except paper cuts, which are feelings with edges. When he left, I stood at the sink and let the water run until the pipes remembered how to be honest. I took the envelope with the yellow capsules to the lockbox along with the tea tin and the glossy boxes, set the nurse's letter beside them like a parenthetical, and clicked the lock with a small gratitude toward metal that keeps promises. Before bed, I sat at the little desk I bought the year Walter's shoes stopped living by the door, and wrote a short email to Dr. Harlan. Subject: follow-up and requests. Dear Dr. Harlan, thank you for today. To request, please place all meds or supplements in my chart as written prescriptions or none. I will not take anything not explicitly listed. Second, I would appreciate a baseline cognition note on file. Sincerely, Nora Hart. I attached a gentle line. P.S. If Nurse M exists, tell her thank you. I did not send the photos yet. Paper first. Panic never. Then I crafted my list for tomorrow like a recipe call clinic. Ask for printed meds list. Photograph every bottle in the house. Buy a lockbox that doesn't look like a lockbox. Text my sister Ruth the code word we used at 13 when a friend was Trouble Marigold. Check the porch camera Ray installed after raccoons declared My Compost a nightclub. And yes, sleep. Elder wisdom. Second serving when you feel managed. Shrink the stage. Do nothing at midnight that you wouldn't explain at noon. I rinsed my cup. set it upside down on the drying rack like a small night watchman, and walked the house with the lights low. Photo frames looked back at me without judgment. The guest room kept its reputation for not making a fuss outside. The street wore its evening politely. I turned down the bed and read the nurse's letter one more time. 4 lines, each a handrail. Stop taking anything not on your chart. Ask for written prescriptions only. Save all bottles and teas. M. I folded it into the pocket of my robe like a saint's relic in a secular world. Then I wrote 3 lines in the notebook. I started the day my husband died and kept for days when the room insists on being an exam. Whistleblowers use small paper to open big doors. Proprietary blend is a costume. Ask to see the face. Paper beats panic, sleep beats speeches. The fan wrote its cursive. The watch kept time without swagger. In the kitchen, the kettle slept with its mouth closed, and the lemon cleaner forgot its sermon. And I closed my eyes. Not because the story was safe yet, but because morning loves people who have rehearsed their verbs. Morning arrives like a page turned softly steam from the kettle. A cool corridor of light along the floor. The paper bracelet's faint echo now just a pale memory on my wrist. I opened the back door and let the kitchen breathe. On the table, Lila's itinerary. A prophet in bullet points. Monday broths. Tuesday teas. Wednesday detox clusters. I lay a clean index card over it, the way you drape a towel over a bowl of rising dough. Rise somewhere else, I think. Not here. Academic phrase of the day, pharmacovigilance. The public argument that medicines deserve chaperones after they leave the factory. We watch for side effects in the wild because people are not lab benches. It's a word for grown-ups with notebooks. I copy it at the top of a fresh page in my spiral and underline it twice. Before coffee, I walk the house the way you walk a garden after hail. Eyes tuned for small wreckage. The recycling bag is emptier than it should be for a family with a fondness for cartons. Lila loves a clean story. In the bathroom cabinet, a new brown bottle poses like a gentleman color Night Serenity herbal drops. The font is earnest. The label lists Scutellaria and Passiflora, real plants given stage names, on the vanity. I find a tiny vial with a bulb pipette nested behind my perfume, hiding as if shyness were innocence. Its contents are the color of polite tea. I photograph it against the sink's white lip, the way a librarian would. Elder wisdom reflection. If something in your house insists on being mysterious, promote it to exhibit. Give it a label, a date, a place to sit. Mystery hates paperwork. I tip 2 drops onto a saucer, sniff, and get a ghost of bitter almond, then a grassy hush. The nose isn't a lab, but it keeps you alive when labels decline to. I don't taste. I'm wary, not reckless. The pipette returns to its nest. Into the lockbox go vial, Night Serenity, and yesterday's Tranquility herbal tin. The metal lid clicks with that small pledge it knows how to make. Phone, a calm buzz, Dr. Harlan's portal ping, results electrolytes fine, thyroid fine, glucose courteous, his message labs unremarkable. We can discuss next steps. Please list all supplements you're taking. I exhale a sound that tries to be a laugh and lands somewhere kinder. I reply, taking none not on chart. Would like printed medication list and baseline cognition note, as requested. Also, may we add a toxicology screen? The nurse hinted at a concern. I leave out M. She deserves a safer day than my inbox can give. My sister Ruth calls before my tea can cool. Marigold, she says. The old code falling out of her mouth like we're back behind the bleachers. Marigold, I answer. Come over shoes on, she says. While I wait, I rehearse the ordinary. Toast, 2 eggs, parsley because it forgives. The pill minder sits on the counter as if invited. I take my prescription blood pressure tablet with the solemnity of a small oath and leave Friday's vitamins asleep in their envelope. The fog that's been rinsing my mornings for a week pulls back a shade. It's amazing what not swallowing does for clarity. Joke 1 puts a hand up who knew self-control could taste like toast. Ruth arrives with a baker's box and a look that answers questions before you ask. I brought blueberry muffins, she says, and a willingness to stare quietly at any object you point to. We sit at the table, low light, steam rising, the room interested but not nosy. I show her the nurse's note, the vials, the schedule that tried to become scripture. Do I sound paranoid, I ask. You sound awake, she says, which is often what paranoia calls itself when it's scared of losing its job. We make a list titled Things We Can Count. 1 symptoms began after Lila's tease. 2 dizziness eased on mornings after I forgot them. 3 pill minder contains capsules not on chart. 4 unfamiliar drops in bathroom. 5 nurses warning. 6 cleaned recycling empty boxes missing. 7 Lila's insistence that fog equals progress. 8 Derek's face when he tried to be helpful with a mug he didn't make. Quick, quirky sidebar. The Victorian era made a business of soothing syrups for babies. Mrs. Winslow's. Streets. Godfrey's. Cordial, pleasant names for tinctures laced with morphine and alcohol. Infants slept, some didn't wake. The label said soothe. The coroner said otherwise. History is a museum of euphemisms with nice fonts. At 10. Dr. Harlan calls. He is brisk without being cruel, which is what I pay him for. Nora, he says. Labs are good. Brain fog is a lazy phrase. It covers grief, hormones, bad sleep, the justice system, and licorice. You asked for talks, we can do a urine screen and, if warranted, blood for sedatives and anticholinergics. Also, the cognition node is already in your chart. You aced clock and animals last year, and frankly, you're acing this phone call. I'm not taking anything off chart, I say. And you shouldn't, he answers. Bring any bottles you have to my office at 2. I'll have May, that ripple of an M, meet you back door. Less theater. We'll photocopy labels. Then I'll order talks. Do not throw anything away. Layla cleans, I say. Then put it where she won't, he says. Inside the cake carrier. Nobody looks in cake. Jokyahai shakes the tin if you can't trust a cake carrier. Who can you trust? We hang up and I prepare for what the day asks: photographs of everything with a barcode. Timestamps on labels. A list of what went into me and what did not. I write, Monday tea, Lila. Tuesday tea declined. Wednesday 2 drops, uncertain. Thursday none. It's an ugly diary, but it tells the truth without adverbs. At noon, Lila texts, I left you more tea on the back step, fresh patch. Please drink today. It helps the detox. Detox again, such a pet name for systems designed to mind their own business. I open the door with a cautious hand. A mason jar smiles up at me. Rubber banded label, Nora's Blend. The liquid is a shade of river you don't swim in. I photograph. Bag, label, lockbox. I answer. Thank you for stopping by. Dr. Harlan has asked that I only take what's charted. I'll bring all bottles to clinic today. Dots appear, then disappear. Then nothing. The quiet tastes like a penny. Ruth and I drive to the clinic with the cake carrier buckled in like a toddler. May meets us at the staff entrance. Eyes kind and busy, hands already gloved. Back room, she says. No waiting room performance. She opens the carrier and looks at the assembly like a detective at a yard sale. You did good, she says softly. Photocopying labels, bagging vials, noting lot numbers with neat, telegraphic handwriting. We'll run the talks and call you first. And this is off the air, but if anyone brings you anything with proprietary blend, politely ask what they're hiding. Are you, I ask? not naive enough to expect a yes. She pretends to clean a staple remover. Some of us prefer our jobs, she says. Some of us prefer our conscience. Try to drink plenty of water. It will help the lab talk. It's the kindest instruction I've received in a month. Dr. Harlan appears halfway through. Neutral tie. Clipboard, like a treaty. He asks a series of questions in the order that comes when did dizziness begin? How long does it last? What days were different? He doesn't accuse Lila. He doesn't exonerate anyone either. We'll do the urine screen now, he says. If it shows class, we'll draw blood for levels. You'll be home by dinner. Don't open any new packages. Someone cleaned my recycling, I say. People who like narratives tidy, he answers. We'll prefer evidence. On the way out, May slips a folded sheet into my hand printouts titled Common Anticholinergics and Herbal Sedatives with Anticholinergic Activity. Benign names, Datura, Henbane, Belladonna old players in new costumes. I tuck the paper into my phone case beside her first note. My phone has become a tiny ark. Back home, the house feels like it knows what it knows. I put a pot of soup on not detox, just carrots and lentils and the discipline of simmering. Lila appears at 3, ponytail brisk, eyes rehearsed. How are we? She asks. Pronoun doing heavy lifting. Better, I say, which is both true and unfair in a way I am not apologizing for. She spies the empty space where her tea jar was and scans my face like a customs officer. Did you drink? I took what my doctor charted. I answer. It is a sentence with a spine. She opens the fridge, rearranges nothing, and closes it like a verdict. You know, she says. Resistance is a symptom. There it is. The prophylactic accusation. The one-size-fits-all. Of course, I say gently. And so is control. The soup agrees with a small, dignified bubble. Derek texts that he's on his way after work. Voice memoed urgency wrapped in apology. The sun shifts. The kitchen pulls its light across the table like a slow curtain. I set out 3 bowls, 3 spoons, and the small notebook where I plan to write only nouns tonight bottle. Date, lot, dose. If the conversation begins to perform, I will serve cake, not commentary. Quick, quirky sidebar. Second, helping the hospital. Bracelets adhesive is designed to fail under stress. A small kindness so patients don't have to fight plastic. I keep mine folded in the drawer. It reminds me that systems can choose gentleness at the engineering level. We can, too. Before Derek arrives, Ruth squeezes my hand and whispers, "You're not wrong. It's a small, clean sentence. Sometimes you don't need a blessing, you just need fewer variables." Joke Boss straightens a napkin if anyone tries to prescribe rest. I'll offer them the couch and ask for their insurance. The doorbell. Shoes in the hall. We sit. I ladle soup that forgives. I place the notebook on the table, pen uncapped, and say softly, because softness doesn't mean surrender. Tonight we write down what has been in this house. Then we call Dr. Harlan together. We don't need debate, we need dates. Lila opens her mouth. Ruth sets down a muffin like a gavel. Dates, my sister repeats, smiling that smile she wore at 16 when she refused to let a teacher grade her on behavior instead of math. We begin with labels, not feelings. The room calms itself by watching us behave like clerks, and for the first time in a week. The fog doesn't even try the door. We begin with nouns. Bottle, date, lot, dose. The soup keeps time in quiet bubbles while Ruth reads labels in the voice she used for bedtime stories that wouldn't scare the child we used to be. Derek writes slow, careful block letters into the little notebook I slid between bowls. Lila sits straight. The posture of a person who believes angles are a moral category, and watches the pen like it could make a bid against her version of events. Academic phrase of the day. Contemporaneous notes. The public argument that words written in the moment, with times and details. Way more in daylight than memories that have had a night to dress themselves. Courts like them. So do sane kitchens. I say the term softly so the room learns it without thinking we're about to depose the table. Night serenity, Ruth reads. One dropperful at bedtime, no ingredients given beyond proprietary blend. Derek writes it down, then adds the lot number and a date from the label seam. Next I ask, a clerk in slippers. Tranquility Herbal, she continues, passing me the tin as if it might have opinions. Prepared by Garden and Grace Apothecary. Address is a P.O. box. Ingredients: skullcap, passion flower, and angel's trumpet. Euphemism on parade. Lila squares her shoulders. Those are gentle plants, she says crisply. Grandmother's remedies. Her tone offers a rocking chair and a blindfold. Gentle is a verb when we can measure it. I answer. Steady as a spoon. We're measuring. Joke one leans on the salt shaker if gentleness comes in a dropper marked guess. It needs a jacket with a name tag. We move on to the mason jar. Nora's blend the label in Lila's looping hand, the river water shade. Derek writes the rubber band timestamp 2:07 p.m. and sighs through his nose like a man discovering that good intentions and due diligence do not share a toothbrush. He glances at Lila, and a small, private earthquake happens along his jaw. I decide the kitchen is not a fault line, it's a ledger. Elder wisdom reflection. When the ground shifts under you. Choose a task with small. Faithful verbs, write. Label, date, breathe. The earth can argue with herself. Your hands can keep the minutes. We call Dr. Harlan on speaker because daylight loves witnesses. Nora, he says, and the neutrality in his tone could cool tea. I have your list. You do. I slide the notebook nearer to the phone like we're feeding it. We're logging everything. I'll bring these to you tomorrow, locked, bagged, labeled. Tonight we wanted to read you the names while the soup is still warm. Proceed, he says. Ruth reads, Derek writes. I hold the silence so the room doesn't audition. When we finish, he asks 3 questions that respect verbs: what went in, what changed when you stopped. Any new symptoms? My answers are short. It feels like we're telling the truth in spoonfuls. I'll add a talks panel, he says. Urine tonight at urgent care, no theater. Blood tomorrow if indicated. Bring the bottles. We'll photocopy labels and set the file to no third-party supplements. Lila opens her mouth, rests her tongue on the word control, then chooses concern. We're just trying to help. It lands like a pamphlet. Good, I say. Then you'll help us get facts. Ruth reaches into the baker's box and sets a blueberry muffin in front of Lila the way an uncle sets a hand on a shoulder. Lila picks at the top like she's stripping a headline for parts. Quick, quirky sidebar, those amber pharmacy bottles that warm your shelf. Their color isn't a fashion choice. It helps block ultraviolet light that can spoil what's inside. The form follows function like rituals that look quaint until you remember they keep the weather off. Our little lockbox, our blue pen, our habit of reading labels aloud, all amber glass for the soul. We drive to urgent care in a small convoy, Derek with me, Ruth behind. Hazard lights of sisterhood on, Lila in her own car. The taillights of someone who wants the story to end before the third act. The waiting room hums neutrality. Televisions play a channel that sells calm we didn't order. At the window. I say my own name first, then talk screen, then Dr. Harlan has called. Paper moves, pens behave. The sample cup has the indignity of all truth-telling instruments. I thank it anyway. On the way home. The radio tries to be helpful and fails. So we travel in the kind of quiet that isn't punitive. It's just giving our tongues a recess. At the house, I put the cake carrier, now our ark of evidence, back in its temporary temple under the sink. behind the roasting pan that only comes out for holidays and bad ideas. The lock clicks. The clock. Above the stove. Practices its honest and... "We'll bring Noah tomorrow," Derek says at the door, holding his keys like an apology note. "I want him to see you sew and not see me try to fix everything with speed." "Bring him," I say, "and bring verbs." Lila lingers. "I felt shut out," she says. Tiny as lint, I thought if I controlled the inputs, I'd control the outcomes. She doesn't say sorry. She doesn't have to. Tonight has a job, and it isn't absolution. Tomorrow at noon, I answer. The clinic, the bottles, the paper, we'll let those control the narrative. Joke High lifts a corner of the dish towel. The only thing we're letting steep overnight is soup. After they go, Ruth and I do the thing women do when the theater has been dragged to the curb. We load the dishwasher like a manifesto. Plates face in, knives handle up, cups on the top rack. Because we are not heathens. You did not accuse, she says, drying a spoon. You let nouns commute in peace. Nouns take the bus, I say. Adjectives want a convertible. She snorts into a towel, muffled triumph. The porch camera pings at 9:12 delivery. I step outside to find a padded envelope addressed to me. No return. Inside a glossy pamphlet about natural restoratives. With a recipe card for evening soothe in a font that auditioned for innocence. I hold it with fingertips and slide it into a clear sleeve. The return label's barcode bears a code I don't recognize. I photograph it anyway because we photograph everything now. Not as paranoia, but as courtesy. We give the future something to look at when it asks, kindly, what happened? Back inside, I answer an email from May, short, professional, the way Care writes when it doesn't want to get people in trouble. We'll be ready at 12 Toru, side entrance. Bring all items, we'll label. Dr. H will add no supplements via family to chart a postscript, drink water. It helps the lab talk. May writes like a field guide that refuses to dramatize the bird. I sit at the desk and draft my own field guide. 1 page, titled, Help I Accept. Rides offered, not held over me. Meals delivered, no sermons inside. Information printed, not whispered. Appointments made with me, within earshot of my dignity. Worry that can carry soup, not just a theory. I tape it inside the pantry door under the good taste to rule of law transition known as the kettle clause. The pantry nods. Wood respects bullet points. Derek texts, "Thank you for letting me be in the room. Thank you for staying in it." I reply. He sends a picture of Noah asleep, mouth a crescent. The photo hits me where oxygen used to. I place the phone face down because the night deserves one object that glows without demanding anything. Jokpa wanders through in socks. I tell the toaster it is now our ethics committee, no heating things without clear labels. The toaster refuses a charter but accepts a wipe down. Before bed, I write to myself the way a clerk writes to tomorrow's shift. Bring the bottles. Bring the note. Bring the part of your voice that believes in noon. I add 3 little receipts at the bottom, because my ribs file their feelings by count. Contemporaneous notes keep kitchens from auditioning as courtrooms. Amber glass exists for a reason, so do boundaries. We don't need better adjectives tonight. We need better labels. I rinse the cups, turn the lights down to calm without performance, and ask the house to keep its doors quiet. The fan writes its cursive. The watch keeps time without swagger. On the counter, the notebook waits with its new handwriting. And I sleep as if paper were a raft because tonight, it is. By late morning, the house has the hush of a library that trusts its patrons. The cake carrier arc of evidence sits buckled in the passenger seat. my tote holding the notebook of nouns and a bottle of water because May says labs prefer chatty rivers to brooks. Ruth rides shotgun in spirit. Her real body follows in her hatchback with a dignity only sisters bring to traffic. Academic phrase of the day, chain of custody, the public argument that facts deserve a paper trail from hand to hand. So truth doesn't evaporate between the kitchen counter and the clinic. I write the phrase on an index card, date it, and clip it to the carrier's handle like a luggage tag for reality. At the clinic's side entrance, May opens the door with the calm of a person who has practiced both medicine and escape plans. Back room, she says. Less theater, more fluorescent honesty. Joke one clears its throat, I whisper to the cake carrier. No autographs. And it squeaks in professional restraint. We set items on a stainless table that has no taste for gossip. May photographs each label, logs lot numbers, notes where found bath vanity, backstep, recycling bag missing. She prints barcoded stickers that look like tiny seatbelts and fastens one around every jar's neck. If anyone asks, she murmurs, we prefer our herbs with surnames. Dr. Harlan arrives in his neutral tie, clipboard at polite attention. He walks through my list with the economy of a man allergic to adjectives. Urine sample last night received. Preliminary immunoassay flags, positive for anticholinergics and non-benzodiazepine sedative class. These are screens, not convictions. We'll confirm with GCMS on blood if you consent. I nod. Consent doesn't require a speech. It requires a good pen. He hands me one and the form signs itself through me. Elder wisdom reflection. When a day asks for courage, say yes in ink. Not in heroics, pens don't brag. And lab machines never need you to hold their hand. May ties a tourniquet with the kindness of a scarf, cleans a patch of my arm, and draws 2 tubes the color of early cherries. Chain of custody starts now, she says, labeling as she narrates. As if the blood appreciates being acknowledged on its way to translation. She seals the bag, writes the time, initials, and places it in a courier box as though putting a letter directly into fate's hand. Courier leaves at noon. Confirmatory results in 24:48. We'll call you first. May, I say, did you write the note? Her eyes stay on the bag as it closes. I write a lot of notes, she answers. Some are prescriptions, some prescribe daylight. Quick, quirky sidebar, GCMS gas chromatography, mass spectrometry separates a mixture into its parts. Then fingerprints each molecule. It's the lab equivalent of hearing a choir and being able to name which alto ate garlic. Screens are yes/no. GCMS is the footnote with sources. We review the medication list in my chart. It now reads like a cordial boundary: prescriptions 1, supplements 0, unauthorized items flagged. Dr. Harlan clicks a banner that makes my file spell out. In hospital native caps do not accept third-party supplements or scheduling. This shouts at everyone who opens your chart, he says. Not loud enough to frighten, just enough to interrupt bad habits. Ruth slips in, hair like a well-placed bookmark. She squeezes my shoulder, then occupies a corner like a friendly ghost with good posture. We've bagged the Nora's blend from the back step, May tells her. If that's what tipped the screen, GCMS will snitch kindly. Harlan flips to a fresh page. Tell me about the symptoms again, he prompts. And I run the film in bullet points: dizziness after tea days, clearer mornings without, 2 nights of sleep that felt like absence rather than rest. The moment last week when my mouth forgot the recipe for toast. He nods. Anticholinergics blur the body's small negotiations, dry mouth. Blurry vision. Confusion. Non-benzohypnotics tuck you in and sometimes tuck your memory out. Doesn't prove intent, proves chemistry. We let the data thread the story. My phone buzzes Derek. We're outside with Noah. Can we bring him in to say hi? I text back. 5 minutes. May smiles. Let the boy see you under noon, she says. It teaches a nervous system where the light switch lives. They appear Noah in dinosaur socks. Derek in the expression of a man trying to borrow steadiness from the architecture. Noah announces, "Grandma, I know 12 animals," and proceeds to list them with a rigor Dr. Harlan would approve. "Add human," I say, touching his cheek. We count. 2. Lila hovers in the doorway, ponytail at attention, eyes calculating the quotient of this room's authority. May greets her with professional neutrality. Dr. Harlan stays a physician-shaped fact. "Here's what happens next," he says, addressing all of us as if we deserve equal briefings. "We await confirmations. You agree to take nothing uncharted. We document changes in your symptoms when you abstain. If a substance shows, we identify it. If a person delivered it, we make decisions about who brings what into this house. He lets we be both patient and system. It's the most generous pronoun today." On our way out through the side hall, Lila sidles close, voice pitch lowered like conspirators in a heist movie. "Natural things don't show up on tests," she says. "They're natural. Joke 2 lifts an eyebrow, so are mushrooms," I answer, gently. "So is arsenic if you ask the right rocks. The machines speak both languages." She blinks. The hallway light does not flinch. Back home, the house receives us like a witness with a good memory. I slide the cake carrier back into its holiday stall, then the notebook to the table, pen uncapped. I drink water like it's paying me by the ounce. Ruth and I build lunch out of simple nouns: bread, cheese, tomatoes that remembered August and give the afternoon permission to pace. At 3, an email arrives from Harlan's office with patient ed sheets attached, anticholinergic burden symptoms and sources, sedative hypnotics risks in older adults, and a 1-page consent and refusal script for unsolicited remedies. It reads like a sweater with sleeves you can roll up. "Thank you for your concern. I only take items listed in my chart. If you believe this would help, please leave the label and a printed study. I will discuss with my doctor." I print 2 copies, one for the fridge, one for the inside of the front door where shoes gather to tell the day goodnight. Derek returns at 4 with Noah and a face that has chosen verbs over vows. "We brought a book," he says. "We read while the soup remembers itself for dinner." Noah's head finds my shoulder, and that small weight rewrites any policy I thought I needed for happiness. When the timer chirps, he races the sound to the kitchen and wins. Because the timer isn't competitive. Jokba pats the kettle I awarded most improved at not panicking. During soup, Lila tries a gentler lane. "I didn't mean harm," she says, not quite looking at me. "I thought I was giving you rest. There's the one true thing. She loves results, hates waiting. Rest is a noun when you can remember it," I say. Keeping my voice at human tempo, I want my sleep to return me to myself. Noah brings over the dinosaur socks for inspection. "These have names," he says solemnly, and lists them again. I add hippocampus to his zoology because I am petty and because memory deserves its own dinosaur. After they go, Ruth and I tidy with the relief of people whose hands know where spoons prefer to live. The porch camera pings at 6:18. Someone paused at the mailbox, then kept walking. I note the time, not the fear. Evidence first, narratives later. At 7:30, my phone bings May. Not usual for an evening, not official yet. Prelim GC run on the Nora's Blend shows scopolamine analog signature. Could be datura? Don't share. Wait for confirm. Hydrate, please. I sit very still. The room practices not being shocked. Ruth reads over my shoulder and squeezes my hand with the pressure we use instead of shouting. We say nothing dramatic. We make tea. We let the house hear us do ordinary. Then I write one sentence on an index card for tomorrow's folder if confirmatory positive. Call Detective Ruiz per Harlan's referral. I slide the card under the binder clip. The clip clicks like a small oath. Before bed. I add a line to the pantry door under Help I Accept. If a gift needs a secret to work, it doesn't live here. Short, strong, executable. I write my 3 lines. The receipts that help my ribs filed today correctly. Chain of custody keeps truth from evaporating on its walk from kitchen to lab. Screens whisper, GCMS names the choir. Rest is a noun worth protecting with paperwork. The fan writes its cursive. The watch keeps time without swagger. In the cake carrier stall, bottles sleep under barcodes like airplanes waiting their turn, and I sleep, because I told the day where to put its facts. And it listened. Morning puts its hand on my shoulder like a nurse who knows where the vein is. I wake before the kettle, check the phone without bargaining, and find May's message waiting at 7:11 a.m., the kind of hour that wears honesty well. Confirmatory GCMS complete. Scopolamine spectrum matched to plant alkaloid profile. Concentration consistent with subtherapeutic but impairing dose. Blood low level present. We flagged the chart. Dr. Harlan will call. Hydrate. The word matched is not theatrical. It just sits there with its coat on, ready to testify. I pour water and write on the top line of today's page, we have chemistry. I do not write, we have a villain. That word likes to audition too early. Academic phrase of the day, forensic triangulation. The public argument that chemicals, behaviors, and timelines must agree before we accuse. A lab is a voice, not a verdict. Patterns finish the sentence. Dr. Harlan calls at 8:02, voice ironed and kind. Nora. Confirmatory is positive for scopolamine class alkaloid, blood low level, urine supportive. Your symptoms line up. We'll file a formal note and, with your permission, I'll connect you to Detective Ruiz. Next medical steps, avoid any uncharted substances. We'll monitor vitals, hydration, note changes as the level clears. Non-medical steps. The detective will say in plainer words than I should. He pauses. You sounded like yourself on the phone yesterday. You sound even more like yourself today. Elder wisdom reflection. When someone says you sound like yourself, write it down. Memory gets hungry in a storm. It will eat flattery and fear first. Keep a clean sentence for later. I text Ruth one word marigold, and 10 minutes later she's on my stoop with a tote that rattles like sensible courage. We lay the table, she says, and means for paper. I set out the notebook of nouns, the cake carrier, and a pitcher of water like it's a guest of honor. We don't rehearse speeches, we practice bringing verbs to the front document. Hand, sign, listen. Detective Ruiz arrives at 10 with an evidence tech whose rolling case looks like a small apartment for wires. Ruiz has that calm, daylight voice that lets your heart climb down from the tree. You did the right things, she says, after I give her the precise nouns and the exact minutes. Now we keep doing them, but with badges. The tech dusts the mason jar and the pipette, photographs the night serenity and the tranquility herbal, swaps the inside of the lid with a Q-tip that knows its job. I show them the porch camera clips and the delivery envelope with the chirpy pamphlet for evening soothe. Ruiz scans the barcode like it might admit a hometown. We'll pull the postal record and look for common senders, she says. We'll also check purchase histories tied to known card numbers if we get warrants. She looks up. No theater. Paper. Quick, quirky sidebar grocery stores sometimes sell seeds for ornamental brugmansia, angel's trumpet first cousin to datura. Beautiful, pendulous, and poisonous enough to erase an afternoon. Victorians grew them near verandas because the flowers looked like chandeliers. The bees learned the hard way. Beauty has always known how to bluff. Derek arrives during the inventory with Noah and 2 dinosaur socks that request an audience. Lila arrives 5 minutes later. Hair purposeful. Face rehearsed for innocence. She clocks the badges, the rolling case. And then this is new, the cake carrier, which has learned to sit like a witness. Her greeting chooses offended. What's all this? Daylight, I say, because that is the smallest honest answer. Ruiz nods hello with her official neutrality and then does what good detectives do, invites procedure to sit down. Miss Hartnora has consented to our search of items brought to or found in the house that relate to unprescribed substances. We have confirmatory lab results. We're going to ask you a few questions and we'll want copies of receipts for anything you've purchased for her care. The evidence tech opens a fresh form. Prints our names with the respect of a clerk who knows the alphabet might get called to testify. Lila aims for indignation. They're natural, she says, as if natural were covered by the Constitution. Ruiz says it the way a park ranger says, stay on the trail. Natural isn't the same as harmless. We follow the molecule. Derek stares at the table like it might teach him how to want the right thing faster. We begin, not with accusation, but with receipts. Where did you buy Night Serenity? Ruiz asks. Pen Quiet, Dietary Fare, the wellness aisle. Lila answers too quickly. Do you have a receipt? I threw it away. Card or cash? Who made Nora's blend? I did, she says, chin a little higher. Just herbs, witch skullcap, passion flower, chamomile. Ruiz writes each down like a patient substitute teacher. Any Brugmansia datura what Lila blinks like a person who would like a dictionary to rescue her from plants. No. The tech flips open a little UV flashlight and scans the inside of the mailbox key dish. The halo May painted yesterday glows faintly, telling on curiosity. He photographs the glow. Lila's eyes flicker toward the hallway, the bathroom like a needle finding north by habit. Ruiz notices and gestures. Mind if we look? I nod. The bathroom reveals only polite towels and the spot where the pipette once hid. The lockbox under the sink looks like a cake carrier because it is one, and no one opens it without me. At 11:22, May calls with Dr. Harlan, looping in from a speakerphone that makes voices sound thinner and more deliberate. 2 notes, he says. 1. Chart updated, no third-party supplements, is now a banner. 2. Postal inspector pings that a similar Evening Soothe mailing returned to sender from 3 blocks over last month. Ruiz, I'll forward. Lila tries one more lane. This is getting blown out of proportion. She's been foggy. Ruiz doesn't roll her eyes. She tightens her pen. Fog is not a crime. Introducing unprescribed substances can be. We're gathering facts. Derek finally exhales. I didn't look hard enough, he says. And I feel something unclench between my shoulder blades I didn't know was holding up a ceiling. We step outside for 5 minutes because good rooms deserve breaks. On the stoop, Ruth reads the plaque on my little bench across the way for whoever needs 10 minutes of public goodness and folds the words into her mouth like a cough drop. Take them, she murmurs, meaning the minutes, meaning the breath. Back inside, Ruiz asks me to read my Help I Accept page aloud. Rides offered, not held over me. Meals delivered, no sermons inside. Information printed, not whispered. Appointments made with me. Worry that can carry soup. The evidence tech smiles into his clipboard. You can tell he has a grandmother whose rules could govern nations. Joquan taps the counter shyly. I tell the refrigerator it's been promoted to Ombudsman of Cold Facts. It hums like it's writing a report. Ruiz closes her notebook with Ceremony's smallest cousin. Next steps, lab reports to our file. I'll interview the cashier at Dietary Fare and any staff who might have sold Night Serenity. We'll pull camera footage if available. Inspector will handle the mail piece. I'll also ask about any online herb orders, Angel's Trumpet, Datura, Scopolamine patches disguised as seasickness remedies. In the meantime, Miss Hart takes only what's charted. Everyone behaves as if this kitchen is wired for honesty. Lila's face cycles through a few essays and chooses quiet. Derek puts a hand on her shoulder without endorsing anything. Noah squeezes my fingers twice, the secret family tab for, "Are we okay?" "We're drinking water and eating lunch," I say. "That's as okay as Tuesday requires." Lunch is grilled cheese and tomatoes that still remember August. We chew like adults. After, Ruiz asks to see the porch camera timestamps again. We give her the exact minutes. She copies them calmly, the way a good sentence copies itself. Quick, quirky sidebar. The safety cap on medicine bottles, push and turn, came out of a Canadian chemist's idea in the 1960s after his daughter swallowed aspirin. It's now saved more children than we have parades for. Defense baked into design is my new favorite genre. We can design our days that way, two by two. The house returns to its normal occupation, being a room that forgives. Ruiz leaves with the evidence tech and a promise called, "We'll call you first." Derek and Noah run to the library. Ruth washes mugs with the reverence of someone who knows dishes keep secrets. Lila stands in the doorway, finally looking as tired as she said she was making me. "I thought rest would save us," she says. And for the first time, it doesn't feel like theater. "Rest will," I answer, but not the kind that empties me out. We do not have a reconciliation. We have an agreement to stop adding ingredients to sentences that didn't ask. She nods once, tiny, and goes. The door doesn't dramatize her leaving, it just does its job. I take my 10 minutes at the bench and let the elm adjust my breathing. The plaque doesn't smile. It doesn't need to. It just keeps its shift. A woman passes with a stroller and the early summer relief of shade. We share the quiet like neighbors who finally learned where not to park. Back home. I add a line on the pantry door under "Help I Accept." If a remedy can't survive a printout, it can't come in. Short, strong, executable. Joke high peaks from the drawer. I tell the toaster the ethics committee has approved carbs for courage. It pops in the affirmative. Before dinner, a text from Ruiz Dietary Fair has camera. Pulled footage around purchase window. Clerk remembers a large cash sale for night drops and herbal calm. We'll get copies. Postal barcode pinged to local pack and ship investigating. Her sentences are ballast. Evening softens the kitchen. I boil pasta because it forgives. Toss it with olive oil that behaves. And write 3 small receipts so my ribs file the day in the correct drawer. Forensic triangulation keeps accusation honest lab plus behavior plus time. Design your days like safety caps, push and turn before opening. If a remedy can't survive a printout, it can't come in. The fan writes its cursive. The watch keeps time without swagger. The cake carrier sleeps like a witness who knows it will be called. And I sleep. Not because nothing can harm me, but because today I taught my house how to carry daylight from the door to the table without spilling. Morning chooses indoor voices. I water the basil. Set 2 cups by the kettle so they don't feel lonely. And open the notebook to the fresh date. The cake carrier, our polite ark, waits in its stall like a witness who knows when to keep still. Detective Ruiz's last text sits on my phone like a paperweight cameras found. Clerk remembers. Postal lead active. It's the kind of message that doesn't need confetti. Academic phrase of the day, supported decision-making. The public argument that adults keep their signatures and dignity while naming helpers to translate. Remind and steady. Assistance becomes verbs you can point to. Not a custody you have to escape. I copy it in blue. Then write the 3 helpers I choose on a sticky Ruth Money Translations. Dr. Harlan Medical Options. Mr. Adler Legal Sentences. I stick it inside the pantry beside my Help I Accept page so even the wooden door can memorize the names. Elder Wisdom Reflection. When the room tries to choose for you, widen the table and choose witnesses. One steady sister beats 12 concerned roomers. Ruth arrives with a grocery bag that clinks like calm and a smile that never oversells. We're assembling boring forms, she says, which is the love language of sisters who have learned to respect nouns. We print a one-page SDM we can sign at the credit union later and a no unsolicited remedies card for my wallet, polite, firm, unpoetic. At 9, Ruiz calls. 2 things, she says. Voice day lit. Dietary fare footage shows a cash purchase of Night Serenity and Herbal Calm 3 days ago. Timestamp 1842, purchaser wearing a gray cap with a white stripe. Clerk IDs the buyer from a photo as your daughter-in-law. Second, the pack and ship store logged a box to you paid in cash. Return label bogus. We've requested prints from the tape people love their thumbs. The way she says love makes it sound like a cautionary tale. I'll ask Lila for a statement. She adds, you don't need to be there. I text Derek, detective will speak to Lila today. House calm. Bring Noah at 6 if you want. Verbs not cancelled. 3 dots pulse. Then copy. May pings next clinic staff retraining scheduled. Also, for your file list of common plant names that hide scopolamine brugmansia, devil's trumpet, angel's trumpet, thorn apple. Bring this to any wellness counter, watch their faces. I printed and tape a copy to the inside of my cake carrier because the universe has a sense of humor. Quick, quirky sidebar in the Renaissance. Poison rings hid tiny wells under a hinged jewel dramatic. Yes. But more show than practicality. Grinding and measuring were clumsy. The modern version is subtler tinctures in dropper bottles. Vials nested behind politely labeled skincare. Herbal blends brewed in big cheerful jars. Old intrigue loved theater. New intrigue prefers pantry lighting. By 10. The house requests ordinary. I answer with laundry that minds its manners and a call to the credit union for a notary appointment. Their receptionist sounds like a bell that's been given good news, come at 2. Bring your blue pen if you're sentimental. We have ours. Ruth claps once our family's quiet applause. Lila texts at 10:23. Detective called. I didn't know that the plant... Look, I was trying to help you sleep. There's a haircut of truth in the sentence. A fringe trying not to get in her eyes. I send back only speak honestly to the detective. I will take only what is charted. I set the phone face down so it can sit with its choices. At noon, Ray leans over the fence with his municipal half-grin and a small pamphlet, City Safety Scams and Substances for Seniors. Hot off the press, he says. We're sneaking your fridge script into the appendix printed sentences that don't wobble. We test the bench together for 10 blessed minutes, shade reliable. Plaque's still doing its shift, and he tells me the Parks Department is adding lids to 3 more trash cans because lids turn chaos into chores. Joke 1 salutes the lid. I promote it to Deputy of Dignity. It promises not to get arrogant. We notarize the SDM at 2. The credit union notary has hands that steady paper like she talks down storms. Initial here, and here, she murmurs. And the blue ink behaves the way I wish more afternoons would. Annual review, she asks. Always. Ruth and I answer in stereo. On the way out. We do our slow good copy lap around the block because the body remembers confidence better when feet learn the route. At home, the porch camera pings Lila on the stoop. No jars, no tote, just a folded piece of paper. She knocks once like someone practicing trust and hands me a receipt printed from the store's loyalty site, her account. The Herbal Calm and Night Drops, a timestamp that matches Ruiz. They emailed me the history, she says, voice linty. I didn't think I'd need history. She meets my eyes. I'll give it to the detective. 2. I nod. Give it to her first, I say. Then come for soup if you like. Or don't. You're allowed to be embarrassed somewhere else. She almost smiles. Embarrassment likes permission. We spend the late afternoon making the kitchen proof-friendly. The consent and refusal card lives by the doorbell. Our little bouncer in polite font. The cake carrier moves to the top shelf, behind the roasting pan's taller cousin. The notebook of nouns gets a drawer with a label Evidence must conversations, grocery lists, because life doesn't respect strict genres. Jokehai tells the label maker it's our poet laureate. It prints a straight line in agreement. At 4:41, Ruiz updates interview complete. She admitted buying, claims ignorance of effects, denies adding anything but skullcap passion flower. Will let the lab be the grown-up. A second text. Postal prints partial. Enough rich detail to keep us interested. We're also checking searches from the public library's computers. Our clerk remembered someone asking for Angel's trumpet tea. We protect privacy. We also follow patterns. I picture a calendar with fewer secrets. And my bones take a breath. I set out 3 bowls at 5:30 because ritual beats nerves. Derek and Noah arrive at 6 with library books and the solemn energy of men who have decided not to whisper. Lila follows 3 minutes later, hair in a ponytail that doesn't pretend. She hovers at the doorway. Soup, I ask. Yes, she says, in a voice that returns her to the species. We stitch before we eat. Noah chooses a stubborn yellow and a diplomatic blue. The seam ripper earns its pension. The iron teaches humility without scorch. Jokba to the bobbin. We're not accepting work stoppages today. It spins obediently, perhaps for the first time in its short, dramatic life. During soup, I set the rules like dishes. No remedies that can't survive a printout. No scheduling for my body, no midnight deliveries, and no narratives that need fog to make sense. Supported decision-making lives here, now helpers, not rulers. Lila nods. She puts a folded page on the table, the receipt printout for me to pass to Ruiz. No speech, no performance. The pantry door hears the paper land and doesn't need subtitles. Noah asks if Angel's trumpet is a real flower. I show him a photo on my phone dangling. Beautiful. Dangerous, he says. It looks like it's sorry. We let the sentence be art and do not grade it. After dishes. The 4 of us take 10 minutes at the bench. The plaque reads itself to us for whoever needs 10 minutes of public goodness tonight. Public goodness looks like 4 people facing the same direction with nothing to sell each other. A bus exhales, the elm reaches a little further into evening. We go home quieter than we left. The porch light makes the keyhole easy inside. I add a new line to the pantry under the SDM sticky if help arrives. It uses its last name. Short, strong, executable. Ruiz texts at 8:12. Postal inspector traced evening soothe kit to a vendor who also sold ornamental Brugmansia seeds under a different brand. Search warrants drafted. You sleep. Will knock on doors that like to be knocked. Her verbs do what lullabies used to. Before bed. I set out tomorrow's clothes for the credit union follow-up and write a postcard to myself with a bird stamp, wings aren't escapes, they're appointments with air. I tuck it into the mirror frame because future me likes mail. Then I file 3 small receipts so my ribs can close their drawer quietly. Supported decision-making turns care into verbs with last names, lids, labels, and laps around the block the small ergonomics of dignity. A receipt laid on a table can be kinder than an apology whispered to a corner. I turn off the lights. The fan writes its cursive. The watch keeps time without swagger, in its stall. The cake carrier sleeps like a good witness, outside. The bench keeps its shift. And I sleep, because daylight has learned my address and keeps showing up on time. By mid-morning, the air feels newly housebroken mail in its lane. Cups where cups belong. The cake carrier asleep like a polite witness on paid leave. Ruth slices pears the way good sisters cut problems neat wedges. No commentary. The phone rests on the table, face down. Because today I want news to knock rather than burst in. Academic phrase of the day, pattern evidence. The public argument that a sequence of similar acts can illuminate intent. Though courts quarrel about how much past looks should predict present behavior, scholars fight over its fairness. Detectives live by its caution. I copy the term on an index card and slide it under the binder clip so even paper can practice restraint. At 9:17, Detective Ruiz texts update at noon clinic back room. Board liaison present. Bring receipt copies. No adjectives. Her verbs wear flat shoes. Elder wisdom reflection when daylight offers you an appointment. Dress your sentences, bring your water, and let the room do half the work. Courage doesn't have to carry the furniture. We arrive through the side entrance that has learned not to audition. May greets us with the competence of someone who can tie a tourniquet in a bowling. She sets 4 chairs around a steel table like a small jury that prefers verbs. Dr. Harlan appears with a folder labeled in block letters, Heart Supplements, Talks, Comms. Dr. Patel from the board joins, clipboard crisp. Then Ruiz steps in, blazer unshowy, eyes practicing slow. We have additional information, Ruiz says, laying out the nouns like cutlery, purchase footage, postal source. And one more piece I want you to hear in a room that knows how to keep its tone. May's gaze drops to her hands. She rubs a thumb along the edge of a label like it's a stair she's deciding whether to climb. Then she lifts her face. Nora. I need to tell you something about Lila. She doesn't hunt for gentler names. She chooses precision, years ago. I worked in a different hospital. We had a patient, older woman, broad smile. Mystery fatigue. Her caregiver was registered as Arya Chen. Arya brought teas, blends, small brown bottles with kindly fonts. Labs kept shrugging. One day, the pharmacist flagged a strange pattern anticholinergic symptoms without a prescription. We tightened protocols, only charted meds. No family supplements. The caregiver disappeared the week after. When Ruiz called yesterday, she asked whether I recognized your daughter-in-law from the footage. May steadies her breath. I did. Different hair. Same mouth. Same habit of labeling kindness. The room does the rarest kindness. It does not rush toward sound. Dr. Patel makes a small square on her pad, the kind that means we are now writing in ink. Ruth's hand finds my elbow and stays there, no squeezing, just a witness. I keep my eyes on the steel table because metal is incapable of pity or panic. Quick quirky sidebar, most hospitals use color-coded badges, red stripe. Green dot, blue bar to silently sort staff, contractors, visitors. We design tiny visual fences because uniforms can be forged and smiles are cheap. I imagine a badge that could tint the air around a vial. A girl can dream. Ruiz slides a photocopy across the table, a state record of a name change petition from 6 years ago, Arya Chen, Leela Wexler, for professional branding. Legal, tidy, ordinary on paper, interesting in a room that keeps timelines. We're not making leaps, Ruiz says. We're making a braid. She ticks threads, the cash purchase of night drops, the mailer from the pack and ship, the scopolamine analog signature in the jar. The alias in a prior hospital's orbit will move with warrants and patience. My ribs want a speech. I hand them water. Thank you for telling me, I say to May. Because whistleblowers deserve verbs. I won't confront her. I'll keep house rules. I'll keep paper. Dr. Harlan adds a sentence like a handrail. Your chart now shouts, staff no. We'll document today's meeting. Anonymized where policy demands. Explicit where safety requires. He looks at me in the steady way good physicians do when they are asking your spine to listen. You stay boring. That's your job. Joke one taps the edge of the folder. I tell the folder, it's our emotional support, Manila. It takes the promotion without flourish. We leave the clinic as if rains have agreed to pause. On the sidewalk, Ruth invents a small ritual. Each of us touches the folder with 2 fingers. The way ball players tap a sign on their way out. Men think rituals must be loud. Sisters know they can be a postcard of pressure applied to paper. At home. The door receives us like a room that has been studying. I put the folder in the lockbox. The click excuses me from melodrama. The phone buzzes. Derek Lila says she's coming by at 4 to talk. Do you want that? The old version of me might have said yes for the sake of theater. The new version consults the pantry and its policies. I text back, bench first, 10 minutes. If conversation behaves, soup. If not, Thursday, as usual for Noah. No jars. Elder wisdom. Second serving, arrange the furniture so grief can't find a microphone. Shade. A timer. And a public plaque out-argue adrenaline. At 4, the bench does its job. Lila sits on the far end as if the wood asked for a resume. Her mouth starts 3 sentences and chooses one. I used a different name back then. She keeps looking at the plaque, not at me. It was after my mother. She stops. I thought I could be new. She lists jobs: caregiver, wellness coach, household organizer. She does not say poison. She does not say scopolamine. She does mention overwhelm and clients who liked results. Academic debate slides into the open like a chair. Academic phrase of the day, I hear myself say. Too tired to resist the habit. Identity work. The public argument that names and roles can be costume changes we use to survive or manipulate. Scholars argue whether reinvention is medicine or mask. I don't say which, I believe. The bench can't take sides. It can hold weight. I didn't mean to hurt you, she says. And for once. The sentence isn't auditioning. I meant to get ahead of the fog. I'm good at getting ahead. She puts both hands on her knees like she's trying to hold herself in the chair. I keep my answer small so it doesn't leak. I want to be awake for my own life, I say. Help that needs me foggy isn't help. Help that can survive a printout is invited. Everything else is a visitor that lost its map. She nods. It looks like it hurts. Detective Ruiz asked for my devices. I gave them, she says. Like an offering you don't get to take back, I'll cooperate. She stands, then adds, almost too quietly, I'm sorry. No adjectives, no tears. The apology sits like a cup between us, not filled yet, not empty either. Joke high crosses on tiptoe. I tell the bench it's getting a raise. It remembers it is only wood, and wood is perfect at salaries. Evening repeats itself on purpose soup that forgives. Table that doesn't audition. The notebook open for nouns if nouns show up. Derek brings Noah and an appetite for quiet. Lila doesn't come back. And that absence earns its own small mercy. After dishes. Noah pins a new square brave blue against stubborn yellow and declares, this one is named Don't Take Grandma's Tea. I consider objecting to the humor, then I let a 6-year-old write his own curriculum. We walk to the bench for our 10, and he asks what the plaque means. I read it again, like liturgy, for whoever needs 10 minutes of public goodness, and he says, we needed it twice today. The bus exhales its agreement. Back inside, the porch camera pings, Ruiz again. Search warrants executed at pack and ship and vendor address. Seized seed packets labeled Ornamental Brugmansia and printed instruction card matching your mailer font. Devices in our custody. Interview tomorrow. You remain boring. Gold star. Her ability to commend tedium feels like a national service. Quick, quirky sidebar, second helping in some cities. Park benches have tiny heat coils in winter so metal doesn't punish sitting. I file that under design that tells the body, "You're welcome here." Our bench has no coils, just an elm and a plaque, and somehow that is enough. Ruth heads home with the confident gait of someone whose day chose verbs. I tidy, I tape a small addition under the pantry's "Help I accept." If a name had to be changed to bring it in, it waits outside. Short, strong, executable. Joke about Pat's the toaster, you, too. I tell it no bread with aliases. The toaster refuses performance art and promises only toast. Before bed, I write 3 lines the receipts my ribs demand when names wear new clothes. Pattern evidence is a compass, not a conviction. Follow it with daylight and a map. Reinvention can be medicine or mask, either way. Demand printouts. Benches beat speeches. Wood remembers where weight goes. I turn the lights low. The fan writes its cursive. The watch keeps time without swagger. In the lockbox. The folder sleeps like paper that intends to testify only when asked. Outside. The bench keeps its shift. And somewhere beyond our street, warrants are being read in rooms that needed them. I sleep not because I solved anyone, but because I kept my grammar bench first. Soup often. Blue ink. No jars. Morning opens like a careful curtain, thin light. Stovetop quiet. The cake carrier breathing its small, lawful breaths under the sink. Ruth texts a heart that looks like it minds its own business. Detective Ruiz's last message sits on my phone with the dignity of a paperweight, warrants executed. Devices in custody, interview today. My job be boring, drink water, keep nouns. Academic phrase of the day, consciousness of guilt. The public argument that when people run, hide, or tamper, their behavior can illuminate state of mind, though it is not the same as proof. Courts treat it like weather suggestive, not destiny. I copy it in blue, then underline the words, not destiny. I tidy the table the way a courtroom dusts its rail slow. Respectful. The pantry door reads like municipal code in polite font. Under "Help I accept" and "No unsolicited remedies." The new line, if a name had to be changed to bring it in, it waits outside, holds still, and does its job. Joke one knocks, I tell the recycling bin, it's our truth shredder. We only tear up fiction here. It burps a little dignity. At 10:08, Ruiz calls, "Interview at 11 Precinct," she says. "You're not required. But if you'd like to give a short statement about the timeline with Ruth present, we'll take it after." Her voice is daylight with a badge. One more update, pack and ship owner produced camera footage of the Evening Soothe kit. Same gray cap with white stripe as in the grocery footage. We're matching timestamps. Ruth and I arrive with our good copy walk already warming in our legs. The precinct has that modest smell of dry coffee and shared pens. We sit in a room whose chairs apologize for their fabric. Ruiz takes our timeline like a clerk who loves an index. I read from the notebook dates, jars, drops, fog. The morning the fog stayed outside. We sign. I print my name the way I want memory to do it plain. Legible, without italics. Detectives bring Lila in through a side hall. Her hair is pulled back into the kind of ponytail you make when your hands need work. She sees me. Then the folder on the table. Then May's neat labels visible through a clear sleeve. She sits. Ruiz is kind without flattery. We have your receipts, the cash purchase footage, the kit you mailed under a bogus return. We have scopolamine analogs in the jar. We have your devices, we'd like your account. Lila starts with fog, graduates to overwhelm, auditions the word caring, and then this is new lands on a confession without a costume I wanted faster results. She stares at the table like truth might be easier to say to steal. I looked up. Angel's trumpet.
Datura. Scopolamine tea. The forum said microdoses calm the loop. I didn't mean to hurt her. I meant to get ahead. She does not say of her. She says of it. I write that down. The way nurses write down a sentence that won't fit in a checkbox. Elder wisdom reflection. If someone finally carries their own verbs into the room, don't take them away with your adjectives. Let the sentence stand up by itself, even if it sways.
Ruiz asks measured, adult questions. Where did you obtain the plant material online? Ornamental seeds, Lila says. I followed a cold water recipe. It was supposed to be natural. What dose, I don't know. Drops. I tasted once. She makes a face that learned something too late. I thought proprietary blends just meant business. Ruiz nods as if nods can count to 10. Did you ever use the name Arya Chen while caregiving? Lila's eyes move the way a goldfish moves when the bowl learns a new word. Yes, she says. And something in the room levels. Like a countertop finally finding its shims. Ruiz steps out. Her partner comes in with a small plastic box, the kind you store lunch in if your lunch plans need chain of custody tape. Inside, a folded evening's soothe card. Seeds in labeled packets. A printed PDF titled Angel's Trumpet Tea, Microdosing for Calm for Education Only. The for education only is the legal fig leaf of cowards. Jokai folds its arms. I tell the fig leaf it's underdressed. Quick, quirky, sidebar, the United States Postal Inspection Service. Those quiet people who just walked past with a folder was founded in 1772, older than the country's own badges. Proof that mail and law have been sharing coffee longer than most of us can count. Their motto might as well be paper remembers. Ruiz returns with a prosecutor on speaker. The voice of a person who believes nouns should be paid well. Charges under discussion sound like polite pricks, attempted poisoning, tampering, unauthorized practice of medicine. We're not here to cage a life with adjectives, the voice says. We're here to name conduct. I find myself breathing easier at the cash register clarity of it. They take Lila's statement, read her rights, and let her call Derek. He arrives with a face you reserve for roofs that leak during dinner, resigned, competent, in love with verbs. He stands in the doorway, not asking to fix, just making himself available to the nouns when they finish. Ruiz says the sentence that tells time where to go. You will be processed and released pending arraignment. You will not contact Nora except through counsel. You will bring no remedies into her house. You will bring Noah for Thursday squares if that remains the plan, and you will bring only library books. Lila nods and does not try to sell anyone a story. Paper moves, doors behave, the world, for 5 minutes. Declines to be theatrical. Outside, Ruth and I practice our good copy walk around the block because feet help the head file. Derek finds us near the elm. He sits on the bench like someone paying respect to gravity. I didn't see the speed I was asking for, he says. I kept voting for efficiency over mercy. You get to vote again, I answer. The precinct accepts absentee ballots. He almost laughs, then doesn't, then breathes. We take 10 minutes exactly. The plaque does its job, which is to witness without applause. I add the tiniest prayer in the language benches speak, keep the weight moving toward noon. At home. I tape one more sentence inside the pantry door, below the others. If a solution requires secrecy, it isn't a solution, it's a plot. Short, strong, executable. May Texts Around 4 board has opened a systems review at the clinic family scheduling scripts. Proprietary blend, red flags. Staff training updates. Also, Harlan asked me to tell you your file reads like a lighthouse. I tell the kettle it's on lighthouse duty. It answers with a patient. Nautical hush. Jokeba pets the toaster. You're the foghorn, use indoor volume.
evening brings the kind of ordinary I used to think didn't count. Noah arrives with dinosaur socks and a new word hippocampus that he pronounces like a small parade. We stitch stubborn yellow to brave blue and teach the bobbin to apologize without quitting. Mara texts a simple, "I'll handle Thursday drop-off. Nouns only. Lila does not appear. Later." An email arrives from her attorney with a sentence, "I can live with Ms. Wexler will abide by no contact and all medical boundaries. She will cooperate fully. No hashtags, no smiley face. Good." We eat soup and not a single theory. Derek washes dishes the way penance should be done quietly, with both hands, on the porch. The camera sees a cat doing union work along the fence line. I file it as neighborhood still a neighborhood. Just before 9. Ruiz texts airline notification subject, booked a flight to Phoenix for tomorrow early. We flagged her if she attempts to leave jurisdiction in violation of release conditions. We'll meet her at the gate. The sentence is offense with manners. I reply with a single bird stamp emoji because wings. In our house. Mean permission only when the itinerary is honest. I boil water for tea that tells the truth. I move the cake carrier to a higher shelf because witnesses deserve a better view. I set out tomorrow's index cards for court numbers and appointment dates because paper prefers to wake up early. Then I write 3 small receipts. Because my ribs insist.
Consciousness of guilt is weather, not destiny. Name conduct, not character. And walk it into noon. Oldest federal cops carry mailbags. Paper remembers. Ordinary is a good alibi squares at 6, soup at 7, bed by 10. I turn off the lights. The fan writes its cursive. The watch keeps time without swagger. Outside, the bench keeps its shift. Inside, a grandmother who prefers printouts to promises sleeps in a house that has learned to keep secrets only for birthdays and quilts. Morning keeps its promise light at the sink. Mail in the right slot. A house that knows which verbs belong to it. I set a cup under the kettle like a small intention and slide today's index cards beside my blue pen court numbers. Detective Ruiz, Dr. Harlan, because paper likes a head start. Ruth texts a thumbs up that somehow smells like toast. I'll drive. Bring water. Bring your help I accept. Academic phrase of the day. Procedural legitimacy. The public argument that people are more likely to accept outcomes when the steps feel fair, visible, and calm. Courts recited. Kitchens can too. Today, we will ask the room to be as honest as its clock. At the courthouse, security trays eat our pockets and return them gently. The hallway has that institutional hum that borrows courage from fluorescent bulbs. Ruiz meets us by a wall map whose blue arrows pretend to be helpful. Arraignment this morning, she says. Conditions we asked for: no contact except through counsel. Surrender of passport. No substances brought to your address. Continued cooperation. We are not here to punish a noun, we are here to name conduct. She could narrate a hurricane and make you feel like the ceiling will hold. We sit. Lila arrives with a public defender who looks like she sleeps, sitting up and dreams in statutes. Derek hovers, hands too polite to grasp anything. I focus on the bench at the back of the room, plain wood. No plaque imagining it borrowed 10 minutes of public goodness from my elm. The judge calls the case. Voice tempered for mornings. The clerk reads charges with the diction of a metronome attempted poisoning. Mail tampering. Unauthorized practice of medicine. All alleged. The word alleged wears a suit. I'm grateful for its tailoring. The defender enters a not guilty plea. Then nods through conditions that read like our pantry rules translated into Latin: no contact, no remedies. Surrender travel documents. Weekly check-ins. Agreed, the defender says. and the word floats like a towel placed over a volatile bowl. The judge sets a next date and reminds the room that silence is not weakness, it is accuracy. Elder wisdom reflection. When the day offers you a seat in a room built to hold trouble without spilling it, take it. Let the architecture do some of the lifting. Your job is not to be the loudest honesty in the room, it is to be the most durable. Outside, we practice our good copy lap. Derek falls into step and stares straight ahead the way men do when they're trying not to unspool. I kept thinking we needed speed, he says. Turns out we needed sequence. Sequence is what soup uses, I answer. He huffs a laugh that forgives us both. Back home, the pantry door reads like a municipal code that had a good night's sleep. Under, if a solution requires secrecy, it's a plot. I add a line, Ruth suggests. Neat as accounting, if you must whisper. Whisper the recipe, not the reason. Short, strong, executable. Quick, quirky sidebar. A standard courtroom clock is usually set slightly fast, not by rule. By culture, because timeliness is a kind of respect. Also, those little wire baskets you place your phone in for security, invented by a librarian who was tired of losing pencils to gravity. Institutions run on tiny corrections. Dr. Harlan calls midday with a voice that has learned to sit down. Medically, your vitals are good. Scopolamine levels dropping. Expect a few days of fog's aftertaste. What we call an anticholinergic hangover dry mouth. Naps that audition as time travel. Keep water close. Notebooks closer. No new meds without printouts. Copy, I say. He pauses. Systemically Board is updating intake scripts. Proprietary blend will now trigger an automatic query and a printed refusal option. Sometimes policy gets rewritten because someone kept the receipts. May texts a minute later. Your file's still a lighthouse. Also, clinic adding a sign, we don't dispense unprinted miracles. Joke one bows from the magnet strip. I tell the refrigerator we're adding miracles require fonts to its charter. It hums without punctuation. At 2, Ray arrives with a pamphlet that looks like it wrote itself on lunch break, city safety remedies, receipts, and respect. The back page quotes my pantry he asked first and gives credit to Nora H., neighbor. We're trying a pilot at senior centers, he says. Lids, labels, and benches, and lemon bars, I add. Policy sticks better with powdered sugar. He doesn't disagree. Ruiz stops by at 3 with the verbal version of an orderly desk. Devices search history confirms Angel's trumpet microdose and scopolamine T forum. Vendor seized seed packets. Instruction card matches your mailer font. Prints pending. Will keep slow and exact. She asks how I'm sleeping. Like paper in a neat file. I say, good, she answers. Boredom is a treatment plan. We take 10 minutes at the elm. A couple shares our bench's shade. Public goodness is a group project. A bus exhales on time. I sip water like it's paying me by the ounce and let my nervous system borrow the tree's posture. When the timer in my pocket vibrates. We stand not because we are healed, but because we are scheduled. Evening earns its routine. Noah arrives with dinosaur socks and the authority of a small foreman. Hippocampus. He reads from a sticky on our sewing machine, then pats his head like he's encouraging a shy organ. We stitch brave blue to diplomatic green. The seam ripper takes a bow when we invite it. Chokehai tells the bobbin to unionize for better tension. It answers by behaving, which is better politics than it sounds. Mara joins us with a caution you can lean against. She doesn't bring jars, she brings a grocery bag with parsley and butter because soup respects both. I told the orthodontist we need the plan in writing, she says quietly. He authorized a slow schedule, no heroics. She looks like a person learning the grammar of patience. I pass her the spoon. We don't narrate growth while it's still tender. Lila does not appear.
Her attorney emails a single-page compliance plan with check-ins and an agreement to bring Noah for Thursday squares with a third party present, Mara or Derek. The line that matters most is the quietest no substances of any kind will be delivered to Miss Hart. Paper beats promises. Still, I let my shoulders drop a notch.
We eat, and nobody gives a speech. Derek washes dishes wearing the humility of someone who has discovered water pressure beats pressure. Ruth sits with me after and writes dates on the calendar in a handwriting that can withstand rain clinic follow-up. Court date. Library craft night that requires nothing of anyone but showing up. We put joy on the calendar, too, she says. It deserves notice. I pencil in lemon bars for city workshop and bench plaque polish, because municipalities of kindness need maintenance. The porch camera pings at 7 the neighbor's cat, performing quality control on the fence. Normalcy does a little parade. I watch it until my heartbeat believes in sidewalks again. One more call before night, the postal inspector with a report that sounds like a clean ledger. Vendor address tied to multiple ornamental Brugmansia sales. Our case is active. Your cooperation has been precise. Thank you, I say. The way you thank a perfectly aligned list, he adds. We'll return any admissible non-hazardous items after the case. The cake carrier can sleep. Jokba nudges the kettle. I tell it that boredom is now a controlled substance. It steams approvingly, within limits. I sit at the desk and write a one-page supported decision-making addendum. Just tidy enough to be useful. Ruth financial translations. Dr. Harlan medical options. Mr. Adler legal explanations. Mara house maintenance vetting. Derek transport. No surprise scheduling. Nora decides. I sign in blue and tuck a copy behind the pantry sheet. The house exhales. Wood appreciates knowing who is allowed to touch which drawer. Before bed. I add one last line to the pantry door if the outcome is important. The steps must be boring, short, strong, executable. Then I write 3 lines for my ribs. Today's receipts filed under kept the tempo. Procedural legitimacy is a kind of mercy. Sequence calms more than speed. Policy rewrites itself when someone brings powdered sugar and receipts. Boredom is treatment. Benches are dosage. Soup is the carrier fluid. Lights low. The fan writes its cursive. The watch keeps time without swagger. On the top shelf, the cake carrier sleeps like a witness on vacation. Outside, my bench keeps its unglamorous shift, and I sleep. Because the day wore its belt and the room kept its posture, and tomorrow at 6 a boy will pin a square straighter than last week. The weak exhale changes into a rhythm I can name without looking it up, bench at 10. Soup at noon, squares at 6, and a kitchen that now treats paper like salt, always on the table, never loud about it. The cake carrier returns to ordinary citizenship, no longer a witness on duty. Just a plastic promise that someday will hold lemon bars again. I set it on the top shelf and let my shoulders agree. Academic phrase of the day. Institutional learning. The public argument that systems can change because people kept the receipts. Not because anyone gave a speech. It's the quiet curriculum of clinics editing their scripts. Post offices setting flags. And families swapping adrenaline for calendars. I write it in blue and tape the card beneath the pantry sheet so Wood can study too. Ruth and I take our good copy walk to the credit union. Where the notary stamps the supported decision-making addendum, we drafted helpers with last names and verbs. My signature staying where it lives. The clerk returns the page the way you hand back a passport, with respect for the person who will need it under fluorescent lighting. Annual review, she asks. Yes, we answer. And I pencil January into a calendar that has stopped auditioning for drama. Elder wisdom reflection. When you want a boundary to last, make it dull on purpose. Ritual beats resolve.
A laminated sheet beats a grand vow. Boredom, rehearsed, turns dignity into muscle memory. Detective Ruiz calls after lunch. Search is complete. Charges filed. Conditions holding, she says. Voice like a tidy desk. We'll do this at court speed now, slow. Documented. Fair. Meanwhile. Keep your house boring. It's my best talent, I say. She almost laughs. We set a check-in for 2 weeks. Her closing line could be a lullaby. Daylight is patient. The clinic sends a small apology done properly, not coupons. Not a newsletter apology tour. Just a single-page letter that says what was wrong. What changed. And the sentence that makes my ribs file the paper under kept assessments at patient request only bannered. Proprietary blend triggers an automatic query and printed refusal option. Staff retraining documented. May adds a sticky note lighthouse still lit. I press the note onto the pantry glass like a child showing off a leaf. Quick, quirky, sidebar library. Due dates are a civics lesson wearing a cardigan, borrow. Enjoy. Return, repeat. Mine has become a house rule template, borrow help. Enjoy without surrender. Return the choice to its owner. Repeat. We even gave the toaster a due date, no bread past curiosity. The city pilots raise pamphlet, city safety, remedies, receipts, and respect at the senior center. They ask me to talk for 10 minutes, which is a mercy because I mistrust microphones. I show up with lemon bars and a handout titled, Paper Beats Panic, My Font. Polite. We practice 3 sentences out loud. I only take what's in my chart. Please print that. Leave a copy. I'll review with my doctor until they stop tasting like confrontation and start tasting like civility. A woman named Phyllis saves her question for after, palms flat on the table. What if it's my daughter? Then you make the kettle the referee, I say. Tea after paper. We both laugh gently, like grown-ups who earned it, at home. We add one more line to the pantry under, if the outcome is important. The steps must be boring. If help can't keep a schedule, it can't keep a key. Short, strong, executable. Thursdays become squares and sentences. Noah pins stubborn yellow to diplomatic green with fewer puckers. He pronounces hippocampus like it pays rent and asks whether angel's trumpet blooms at night. It shouldn't bloom in our kitchen, I say. And he nods solemnly as if deputized. Derek reads aloud from a book with more animals than adjectives. Mara chops parsley with the humility good knives encourage. Lila does not come. Her attorney sends procedural emails that behave. The most dramatic line we receive all week is compliance confirmed. It feels like medicine. Derek lingers after dishes and asks if the bench is still earning its keep. Every day, I say. He half smiles. I used to think love was speed, he admits. Now I think it's sequence. He dries a bowl like it's a contract and sets it down square. We do not hug. We sign to each other in chores. It counts. The postal inspector closes one loop vendor shuttered. Seed packets seized. Instruction cards now exhibits with case numbers instead of fonts. He thanks me for tidy reporting. I thank him for existing before the country did and for treating mail like a covenant. We hang up, and I put a bird stamp on the fridge because wings have learned their grammar here permission with itinerary. Never secrets with labels. Dr. Harlan clears me for ordinary life with one caution: anticholinergic hangovers can leave little ghosts dry mouth at night. Naps that time travel. Drink water. Sleep like a profession. And call if words wander, he says. Also, keep the lighthouse. I promise to keep both the lamp and the lemon bars. Mara asks to add a new verb to Thursday's hymn. We stand shoulder to shoulder at the machine while the bobbin learns steady employment. I told the orthodontist slow was okay, she says. her voice stripped down to the wood. I'm trying to like boring where it belongs. You'll get good at it, I say. Clothes learn. People do too. She smiles without graphics and keeps stitching. We polish the bench plaque one afternoon when the sun is feeling honest. Ray passes with his municipal stride and salutes with a lid. We're adding 3 more to the park trash cans, he reports. Chaos doesn't have to be a personality. Neither does family, I say. He grins like a man who approves of both sentences. Derek and I set up a small lockbox for Noah's library slips and school forms. Not because 6-year-olds require chain of custody, but because habits like to travel in families. We label it courtesy and let Noah choose the sticker dinosaur, obviously. Joke 1 taps the lid we granted the title Registrar of Small Truths. It accepts with ceremony when the first real heat arrives. I buy a picnic blanket with a rubberized back that refuses damp grass. We inaugurate it under the elm. Lunch is a humble republic bread that knows itself. Tomatoes that remember August, butter that minds its manners, and the laughter that happens when nobody has to win the afternoon. Ruth reads a paragraph from a book about women who rewrote rules with index cards and receipts. Our people, I say. A letter arrives from the court with dates that fit in a calendar without frightening it. I write them down, then immediately pencil joy around them Noah's school fair, Ray's park talk, a city workshop where people can get a fridge magnet that says, "We don't dispense unprinted miracles." We're gluing civics to appliances. It's my favorite mashup. The porch camera shows ordinary things, mail carried with purpose. The neighbor's cat doing fence inspections. A teenager practicing a skateboard apology to gravity. Normalcy schedules itself like public transit. I let it. Because I finally have a transit pass for this life. On a sleepy Saturday, I teach a small class at the library, 10 people, and a plate of lemon bars called Close is a Verb. We practice ordering help the way you order a sandwich, specific, polite, on paper. We draft supported decision-making cards with 3 lines, who helps, with what, and how you'll confirm. A man my age wipes his eyes with a napkin and says, I thought I had to choose between alone and controlled. Third option, I say, drawing a little box on his card, accompanied. Joke High carries a tiny briefcase across the counter. I promote the kettle to bailiff emeritus. It promises to call the room to order on steam alone. On the last evening before the court's next date, the house wears its competence like a cardigan. The cake carrier holds cake. Finally, the printer hums like a docent proud of its exhibit. The pantry reads like municipal code with good margins. We invite quiet, and it arrives on time. I sit at the desk and write a postcard to myself with a bird stamp, keep your pen, teach your rooms their grammar. I tuck it into the mirror frame. The woman in the glass looks like someone I'd listen to. I relax. Before bed, I add the last line to the pantry door beneath help I accept. The kettle rule, the bench clause, and every other gentle law we've learned to keep. Close is a verb here. We do it on Thursdays, at dinner, with paper, and without fog. Short, strong, executable. Then I write 3 small receipts for my ribs. Because even Joy likes a ledger. Institutional learning is how daylight becomes policy. Save your powder for the index card and the form. Rituals, laminated. Outlive adrenaline. Boredom is a kind of grace. Close, practiced, is heavier than any jar. The fan writes its cursive. The watch keeps time without swagger. Outside, the bench keeps its shift. Inside, the cake carrier keeps its sweets, and I sleep like a signed original flat. Legible, and ready for whatever dull. Decent Morning shows up next. We didn't conquer anything grand tonight. We just learned the small choreography of staying awake to our own lives. A kettle that waits for paper, a bench that measures 10 minutes and hands them back, a little calmer at the edges. A kitchen that remembers the grammar of care help with last names. Sentences in blue ink. No jars that arrive with secrets. When fear tried to speed us up, we traded it for sequence water first. Labels next. Copies before feelings. Soup after sentences. The room listened, and then the people did. A doctor who spoke at noon. A nurse who slipped daylight between folded sheets. A detective who kept the verb steady. A sister whose presence made the air behave. Even the house learned manners locks that don't clear their throats. A cake carrier that can sleep. A pantry door that reads like a cordial little constitution. We didn't erase harm, we put it in order, added margins, and let the facts take their rightful seats. We didn't make forgiveness a performance, we made safety a routine. The boy stitched colors until corners learned to meet, and in the rhythm of thread pulling through cloth. A family practiced closeness without fog. Institutions. Nudged by receipts. Changed a few lines of script. The city found room on a flyer for civility. The mailbox remembered whose name belongs on what. Nothing flashy, nothing loud, but a life that shows up on time bench at 10. Soup at noon. Squares at 6. And a bedtime that greets you with your own name. If you're listening in the dark, let your shoulders drop. Let the kettle rest. Let tomorrow come as a list of easy verbs. Breathe. Drink. Write. Ask. Wait. You have time. You have paper. You have a room that can learn your grammar. One soft evening at a time.